Real people, real confessions, the stories you weren't supposed to hear. Welcome to Beyond Reddit Stories. I still remember waking up that morning feeling light, like the whole world had decided to wrap itself in sunshine just for me. My 18th birthday. The kind of day you only get once. The kind of day you imagine for years. When I was little, my dad always made birthdays feel like magic. We didn't have much, but he'd wake me up with pancakes shaped like my age, lopsided, burnt at the edges, dripping with syrup. He'd stick a candle right in the middle and sing off key until I laughed so hard I couldn't blow it out. It was our thing, just us. That morning, I was expecting something like that. Maybe not pancakes, maybe not even a candle, but at least the warmth, that feeling of being his. Instead, when I walked into the kitchen, Dad was on his phone, leaning against the counter. He looked up, smiled, but it wasn't the wide, boyish grin I was used to. It was quick, distracted. "Morning, kiddo," he said, sliding the phone into his pocket. "Got a big surprise for you tonight." I smiled back, but something in me tilted. His voice didn't sound like surprise, it sounded like he was already somewhere else. Still, I told myself not to overthink. Maybe it was tickets to my favorite band. Maybe he'd booked that little diner we loved. But the whole time I was pouring cereal, I could feel it, that strange gap between us. Like I was talking to someone who was already halfway out the door. I didn't know it yet, but by the end of that day, I'd realized my dad had chosen his new wife over me. And it happened on my birthday. Before all of this, life with my dad was simple, but it was ours. My parents split when I was 13. It wasn't messy in the screaming. Throwing plates way, it was quiet, too quiet. Mom moved to another state for work, and Dad got the apartment we'd been renting. I stayed with him because, well, I thought he needed me. And maybe I needed him too. We lived in a small 2-bedroom place at the edge of town, the kind of place where you could hear the neighbor's TV through the wall and smell the bakery downstairs before your alarm even went off. Dad worked at the hardware store, and I went to the public high school a few blocks away. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt safe. We had our routines: Tuesday night spaghetti, Friday movie marathons with microwaved popcorn, long walks on Sunday mornings when neither of us felt like talking. I used to think those little things were unbreakable. Then, about 2 years ago, Dad met her, Melissa. I remember the first time I saw her. She came over for dinner, wearing this red dress that looked like it belonged in a magazine, sitting on our couch like she'd always been there. She was polite enough, smiling at me between bites, but I could feel her studying me, measuring me. At first, I tried to like her. I asked about her job, about the bracelet she wore, even about the perfume that smelled like expensive flowers. But she never asked me anything back. Conversations felt one-sided. Over time, Dad started changing too, missing our Friday movies because Melissa really wanted to try this new place, forgetting our Sunday walks because they had plans. Even dinner at home felt different. I'd be telling him about school, and his phone would buzz, and suddenly I'd be talking to the top of his head while his fingers flew across the screen. It was like someone had slowly turned down the volume on our life together. I could still see it, the apartment, the spaghetti, the walks, but I could barely hear it anymore. And I guess I thought my birthday might turn the volume back up. I thought maybe, just for one day, I'd get my dad back. The whole week before my birthday, I kept wondering what Dad's big surprise could be. He didn't say much about it, just that it was going to be special and that I should dress nice. I pictured our little diner, maybe upgraded to the new Italian place downtown. Just me and him, laughing over pasta, maybe even a slice of tiramisu with my name written in chocolate. That's how it had always been. Birthdays were ours. But when Saturday came, he picked me up outside the apartment and she was in the passenger seat. Melissa. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart," in that voice she used when she wanted to sound warm. I told myself it was fine. Maybe she was just tagging along before Dad and I broke off for our tradition. But as we drove, I realized we weren't heading anywhere familiar. We pulled up to this high-end restaurant with glass walls and gold lettering on the door. Inside, the lighting was soft, the kind that makes everything look perfect, and everyone inside seemed to be wearing something worth more than our monthly rent. Then I saw them, not just Melissa, but her friends, 4 of them, already seated, waving like I was some distant cousin they barely remembered. Dad put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Tonight's about family," but it didn't feel like our family. Dinner started polite enough. They asked about school, in that way people do when they're just killing time before the real conversation. Dad laughed at Melissa's stories, topped off her wine, touched her hand like we weren't even there with other people. I kept waiting for the moment he'd turn to me, ask about my plans after graduation, tell me he was proud, but he didn't. Then the waiter came out with a cake, but it wasn't my cake. It was a sleek little white one. No candles, no happy birthday. And before I could even process it, Melissa stood, beaming, and announced, "We have some news." She placed a hand on her stomach. The table erupted cheers, clapping, voices overlapping. Dad grinned wider than I'd seen in years. "We're having a baby," he said, his eyes shining. Everyone was congratulating them, hugging them, toasting to them. And I was just sitting there, my hands in my lap. The words "happy birthday" stuck in my throat like glass. When the bill came, Dad excused himself to help Melissa to the car. "She needs to rest. It's been a big night." He handed me a folded 20 and told me to grab a cab home. That was it, my 18th birthday. The cab ride home felt longer than the entire past year. I stared out the window, watching the city blur into streaks of gold and black, feeling like I'd just been erased. By the time I unlocked the apartment door, the quiet hit me harder than anything. No Dad, no candlelight, just the sound of the fridge humming. I sat on the couch, still in my dress, still wearing the smile I'd forced all night until it finally cracked. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Not the quiet, cinematic tears you see in movies, the ugly, snot running, chest aching kind. I thought about every birthday before this one. The burnt pancakes, the cheap paper crowns, the way Dad used to look at me like I was his whole world. And now, that look was for someone else. I don't know how long I sat there before my phone buzzed. It was a message from Aunt Claire. "Hey, sweetheart, I hope you're okay. I'm so sorry about what happened tonight. Your dad." He thought it would be easier to combine the dinner with Melissa's announcement. He didn't want to waste 2 special nights. 2 special nights. I called her immediately, my voice shaking. "What do you mean?" And that's when she told me the part Dad never would. They'd planned my birthday dinner for next week, just the 2 of us, but Melissa didn't want to wait to share her news. So Dad moved my birthday celebration, without telling me, so hers could take the spotlight. The words felt like a match dropped on dry grass. It wasn't just that I'd been forgotten, I'd been rearranged, shifted around like a dentist appointment to fit someone else's calendar. By the time Dad got home, my tears had dried into something sharper. I stood in the living room and asked him point blank, "Did you move my birthday so she could have hers?" He didn't even flinch, just sighed and said, "You'll understand when you're older. Sometimes, you have to think about the bigger picture." But in that moment, I realized the bigger picture didn't have me in it anymore. That night, I stopped waiting for him to make it right. And that was the night I decided. I'd never let someone else decide where I fit in their life again. In the weeks after that night, I stopped waiting for apologies that were never coming. I didn't slam doors or send angry texts. I just quietly pulled my heart back. I started saying yes to things I'd always put off: late-night study sessions at the library, weekend trips with friends, even joining the school's photography club. The more I filled my own life, the less space there was for the ache. When college acceptance letters started arriving, I didn't run to show Dad first. I opened them at my desk, smiled to myself, and took a photo to save for later. It wasn't about shutting him out, it was about not needing his validation to feel proud. And on my 19th birthday, I didn't wait for him to make plans. I invited my closest friends over, made my own burnt pancakes, stuck a candle in the middle, and sang off key to myself. And for the first time in a long time, I felt full. Here's what I've learned: sometimes, the people you think will protect your place in their life are the first to give it away. But that doesn't mean you disappear. It means you build a place that's yours, where no one else gets to move you around. So I'll ask you, if someone you love made you feel replaceable, what would you do? Would you fight for the spot? Or would you walk away and make your own? If you've listened this far, maybe something in my story felt familiar. Maybe you've had a birthday that wasn't really yours, or a moment when someone you trusted put you second, or third, or last. If you have, I want you to know you're not alone. and your value isn't measured by where you land on someone else's list. I'd love to hear your story. Share it in the comments, even if it's messy, even if it still hurts. You never know who might read it and feel a little less alone. And if you just need to scream into the void, that's fine too. I tell these stories because they're real. They happen quietly, in families and friendships and relationships, and most of the time, no one talks about them. But the more we talk, the more we understand each other and ourselves. So if you want to hear more real stories like this, the ones that hurt, heal, and maybe make you see your own life differently, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and stick around. Because trust me, the next story, you won't believe it's true.